What's going on YouTube? Today we got 3 critiques that drive me crazy or drive me insane by Johnny Averett. I believe that's his how you pronounce his name. Something like that. I'm saying my apologies if it was wrong. Or, I'm smacked right now, yeah. Don't mob me, man. No,
I love the game of basketball,
back
and I genuinely love discussing and comparing grades of the game to one another. But what I can't stand
3 goats right there, man.
faith. Your favorite player and the player you think is
3
the GOAT
legends.
can be Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, or LeBron James. Regardless of who your guy is, I can respect your stance. The only part that irritates me is when people are disingenuous with their arguments. How this usually manifests itself is
I agree. I agree, bro.
Against the player who is in direct competition with their favorite player. Due to these biases, people will perpetuate specific critiques and narratives that honestly shouldn't carry any weight. Today, I'm breaking down 3 critiques that I can't stand from 3 of the greatest players of all time. First off, LeBron James and his 4 and 6 in the finals criticism. The fact that people try and turn this incredibly impressive achievement into a form of criticism is mind-boggling to me.
Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like that really gets me though. Cause yo, bro, cause y'all knocking the guy for getting there so many times, bro. Like, that's ridiculous to me. It don't even make sense. It don't make sense, bro. It don't make sense. You know?
LeBron James has 4 NBA championship rings.
It don't make sense at all.
Way to the NBA Finals on 10 different occasions, and with a total of 3 different franchises. As amazing as that sounds, it's the 4 and 6 part that gets regurgitated over and over again. The criticism
for real, bro.
implies that if LeBron only made it to the NBA Finals 4 times in his career and won all 4 times, that would be more impressive than his total of 10 appearances with 4 championships. Essentially, they're critiquing LeBron for making it too deep into the playoffs.
Like, bro, listen to what he's about to say, because this is exactly what y'all doing when y'all do this.
Making it too deep into the playoffs on 6 occasions, which is obviously ridiculous when you look at it objectively.
Like, come on now. Like, just cause he was able to get there and he lost there, it's a problem. But if they lost in the first round, second round, it's no problem. You hear, like, come on, fuck out of here with that bullshit. I mean, trying to hate on my boy, bro, man. Stop hating on my boy, bro, man. Real shit.
Point in LeBron's young career, he was only 22 years old, and he was leading the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals against the first-seeded Detroit Pistons. The Pistons were a team with championship experience and several All-Stars on their roster. This was the Pistons' 5th straight season where they had made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they were the heavy favorites heading into this series. What Detroit wasn't ready for was a young LeBron James who would perform in a way that was reminiscent of a prime Michael Jordan. In Game 5 especially, LeBron went absolutely nuts as he dropped 48 points, 9 rebounds.
Is this the series where everybody tried to downplay his first few games? I think this is the series, that series, or it was the Boston series. I'm not sure which one, but, you know, people trying to downplay, you know what I'm saying,
leading his Cavs in overtime,
1 or 2 games sample size, like,
carried his team to victory was ridiculous. Understatement, as LeBron scored the final 25 points for the Cleveland Cavaliers. In my opinion, this is one of the top 3 greatest playoff performances in NBA history, and it was done by a kid who wasn't even old enough to rent a car in most cases. The Cavaliers absolutely had no business beating the far more experienced Detroit Pistons that series. But thanks to LeBron's legendary performance, the Cavs were able to achieve the unthinkable. Now imagine using this performance as a criticism against LeBron's legacy. Sounds crazy, but that's exactly what people are doing when they mention the 4-6 narrative. Because LeBron's Cavs went on to lose in the NBA Finals against the dynastic San Antonio Spurs. By the logic of the 4-6 critique, it would have been better for his legacy if LeBron
I'm sad. I don't think it's that series either. It's definitely not the Detroit series.
And instead just laid over while the Pistons routed them out of the playoffs. Of course, That's stupid. So even if you're a Jordan guy, don't make this disingenuous critique and punish a player for something that should be appreciated. Speaking of which, next we're looking at Michael Jordan and the critique that he kept losing in the first round before Pippen showed up. Anytime anyone makes this criticism,
Come on, bro.
I assume they did it either because they're
Nobody can win without help, bro. Like what? Like that's asking for too much. And the way young MJ was playing was out of his mind. You know, so you're talking about him individually as a player. There's nothing you could say, man. Nothing you could say. You could say his team didn't have all that great success, you know, in the beginning, in his early years, but you got it, you know.
so biased against Jordan that they ignore the truth, or because they're so young, so they're obviously gonna be naive about the details of that era. Scottie Pippen wasn't drafted until the 87 to 88 season, which means that Jordan's first round critique is based on his first 3 seasons in the NBA. So let's take a look at those. MJ had one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time, as his regular season numbers appeared extremely similar to Kobe Bryant's own MVP season.
You said as an individual, you cannot knock that. You know what I'm saying?
A rookie Jordan improved the Bulls' 11 wins over the previous season, and despite having no other All-Stars in the roster, he was able to carry them to the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. The team they were going up against in the first round was an extremely stacked Milwaukee Bucks squad, who had multiple All-Stars and who had won 59 games throughout the regular season. Along with their high-powered offense, the Bucks had the second-best defense in the entire league. The leader of that defense was one of the greatest wing defenders of NBA history, Sidney Moncrief, who was in the prime of his career and is still the only guard in NBA history to win the Defensive Player of the Year award multiple times. Yes, a rookie Michael Jordan lost that series, but his clearly inferior squad was never expected to win in the first place, and despite being guarded by one of the greatest wing defenders of all time, he still had a pretty monstrous series on an individual level. Blaming Jordan for losing in the first round of 1985 would be ridiculous. Then we gotta look at the next 2 seasons, 1986 and 1987. Once again, Jordan had monstrous seasons individually, but he was still the only All-Star player on the Chicago Bulls. After breaking his foot early in the 1986 season, he went against the doctor's wishes and returned to action early and proceeded to drag his Bulls into the 8th-seeded spot of the playoffs. Waiting for them in the first round was a team that some people still think is the greatest team in NBA history, the 1986 Boston Celtics. Most basketball historians agree that at the very least, these Celtics were a top 5 team of all time. They won 67 games throughout the regular season and had the best defense in the entire league.
It was 5 wins away from that 72
Jordan
and
was the
10.
only Hall of Famer on the Bulls squad. The 1986 Celtics had 5. Despite going up against one of the greatest teams and defenses of all time, Jordan averaged nearly 44 points, 6 rebounds.
God damn, that's different. But I don't really like the Hall of Fame argument. But, you know, and I heard that in Players' Choice, it makes sense as well. Because none of them are even Hall of Famers at the time that they're playing. None of them are Hall of Famers, you know. So it's like they're just great players. Don't get it fucked up, though, because Celtics team was definitely a way better team. Legendary team.
At that point,
you know?
Jordan was the only Hall of Famer on the Bulls squad.
And that's when Jordan dropped 63 on them Knicks, man.
One of the greatest teams and defenses of all time, Jordan
most points in playoffs history.
6 rebounds, 6 assists, over 2 steals, and more than 1 block on over 50% shooting in the field.
Come on, man.
Included in that stat line was the greatest scoring performance in playoff history.
Come on,
Jordan
man.
dropped 63 in Boston.
Can't knock that.
The highest scoring playoff performance of all time was against a number 1 ranked defense. Once again, blaming this first-round loss on Jordan would be incredibly stupid. The next season, despite his weak supporting cast, Jordan improved the Bulls by 10 wins, but that still only landed them the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. So waiting for them once again in the first round was the exact same super team Boston Celtics. Yet again, Jordan did his part, exploding statistically over the course of the series. But the Celtics' 5 Hall of Famers were clearly too much. These are the 3 first-round exits before Pippen showed up. to a dominant 59-win Milwaukee Bucks team in his rookie season, and to one of the top 5 super teams of all time in 1986 and 1987. Back in the day, you would have been considered a fool to think that Jordan was going to beat any of those teams.
Who's that player at the bottom right? Is that Denny Ainge?
Act like he should have
So
done
Dennis
just
Johnson,
that.
Kevin McHale, Larry Bird,
but Pippen
Danny
was a very
Ainge.
slow bloomer and took
What was
time
the
to develop his game both
Parrish?
offensively and defensively. In the
Forgot his
regular
first
season
name.
of his rookie year, Pippen only averaged 8 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists in 20 minutes per game. Of course, this was the year the Bulls finally got past the first round. And according to the Jordan naysayers, it's not because Jordan averaged 45 points,
like,
rebounds,
bro,
5 assists,
Jordan was really,
steals,
oh my.
and 1.5 blocks.
Yo, bro, 45, averaging 45 in playoffs, bro.
Certainly not. It was because
Come
Pippen
on,
arrived
bro.
just
That
in
is
time to save the
ridiculous.
day off the bench, as he averaged
Dusty
10
ass
points in
does.
27 minutes per game.
Yeah, I played.
Again,
Scotty was a good
don't
player, but he
perpetuate
was,
this Jordan
at that time,
narrative.
he was still young
It makes
and
you
developing.
look like a filthy casual to those who actually know NBA history. Last on
Sheesh.
the list is Kobe Bryant and the critique that he blew a 3-1 lead in 2006 against the Suns. Kobe's 05-06 season is famous among basketball enthusiasts, and for good reason. It's the season where he scored 62 points and 3 quarters against that year's Western Conference champions, the Dallas Mavericks, and is where he scored 81 points against the Toronto Raptors, which is still the second highest scoring performance of all time. In that regular season, Kobe
I didn't know he
averaged
did that
35
all the
points
same
per
season.
game and was named first team all defense. That is still the highest scoring season ever for a player who also made first team all defense. In order to make the playoffs, this Herculean effort was required of Kobe, as his roster was devoid of talent outside of Lamar Odom. Guys like Kwame Brown, Luke Walton, Chris Mim, and Smush Parker were consistently in the starting rotation. On most Western Conference teams, those same players would have struggled to get a roster spot. Regardless, Kobe led his Lakers to 45 wins throughout the regular season, which was good enough for the 7th seed in the Western Conference. Waiting for them in the first round of the playoffs was the far more talented and deeper Phoenix Suns. Heading into the series, the Lakers were considered as significant underdogs. Regardless, the first 4 games in the series ended up being extremely close, where each contest could have gone either way. In Game 4 especially, Kobe provided late-game heroics, and with his iconic game-winning buzzer beater, the Lakers took an improbable 3-1 lead in the series. Now, did the Lakers go on to lose the series? Absolutely. But unlike, say, the Golden State Warriors in 2016, the Lakers weren't these massive favorites heading into the series, and were basically playing with house money. Before the series, no one thought the Lakers would ever get up 3-1 in the first place. So when the Lakers went on to lose the next 3 games against Phoenix, not many of us were actually surprised by that, because we knew how lucky the Lakers were to get up 3-1. The other reason why I think the blowing a 3-1 lead critique is absurd is because Kobe had likely the best playoff game of his career in Game 6. Down the stretch, Kobe was consistently hitting insanely tough shots that the Lakers absolutely had to have. And on the night, he finished the game with 50 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals on a stellar 66.4 shooting percentage. The Lakers should have won that game as well. The Lakers were up by 3 points with only seconds left in regulation, but Los Angeles consistently blew opportunities to secure the loose ball and the defensive rebound. And as a result, Tim Thomas hits a 3 to tie the game, which sends it to overtime. If the Lakers secure that rebound, they win the series. And
Someone got to get a
praised
board.
as a hero for one of the greatest playoff
Someone got to run him off the
performances of all
3-point line as well. Like,
because Lamar Odom didn't box out for that board, the Lakers go on to lose, and Kobe is blamed for blowing a 3-1 lead. Isn't it crazy how one moment completely unconnected to the superstar player can decide the narrative about that superstar player? There is the highly debated topic about Kobe quitting in Game 7, which I personally don't believe he did, which involves an in-depth explanation and will eventually get its own video. Point being, Kobe didn't blow the series based on his play in the final 3 games, and the Lakers were never considered the better team in the first place. So to critique him for, quote, blowing a 3-1 lead seems a little unfair when you consider the circumstances of that series. So what do you guys think? What is a basketball critique that drives you insane? Let me know in the comment section below.
I think these
always.
pretty much got them all, man. I mean, there's probably some more if I would hear them. If y'all say them, I probably would have said no, but I can't think of none off my head right now. Let me know some that get y'all upset in the comments. Turn on post notifications. If y'all enjoyed, click on the last reaction. Make sure you subscribe. And I'm out of here, man. I'm out of here.